Hello there, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak Up Africa podcast. This is episode 4, season 2. If you've been with us here all along, karibu sana. Thank you very much. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Anyona Bulungu.
And my name is Wangechi and Anyona.
And today we wanted to discuss all aspects social justice. Yeah, you see how we say, every kind of community is diverse politically, socially, economically. That's what we're going to talk about today.
So I was waiting for you to do that. Follow us on our social media.
Because I want to make Wangechi happy. Follow us across all our social media platforms. We are available at Speak Up Africa. The K is always constant.
I cannot start this episode without the K is always constant. It has to be there. It's one of those things that, keeps you going.
I am proud. I'm proud I came up with that.
Yes. And it's going to be that one thing that no matter what happens, you're always going to be like, we used to say the K is always constant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's full of sentiment.
We want the justice to also always be constant. I know that's
yes, she wants us to get to the topic of the day. The topic of the day is social justice, yeah? Mm-hmm. So let's start by defining what social justice is and in particular respect to this particular episode. So, Anyona, what is social justice according to you?
No, layman's language, the best way to put it would just be to get to a point where everybody is made comfortable in the society. Basically, the social aspects of society, that we have no injustices. Define without using the word justice.
You're repeating yourself. Remember being told that.
Yeah. But just the layman language is basically having an accommodative society, inclusive of all. Embracing diversity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hakuna mtu amefinyiliwa in any possible way. Do you think it is possible to achieve that?
Do we need to? We do. Do I think it can happen? Will take time. But I think it needs to start. The wheels need to get rolling. I mean, we can't fail to say that it's people are already trying to ensure we're getting to that point, but we're not there yet. And can we get there? We can. Just how soon is what I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like there's always going to be someone who's going to feel I didn't get the best end of the deal.
We're not ice cream. You can't make everyone happy.
Okay. Oh, I hate ice cream. So you see, there's always going to be people like me who will always feel like I got stepped upon. But it's important to talk about these things because some issues are actually things you can fix.
Yes.
And those things that you can fix, we fix them.
Yeah.
We fix them.
Yeah.
So why is social justice important?
It's very important because we need to have a society that's accommodative. And accommodative is not really the word. I feel like when people say tolerant and accommodative, it's just like, I can't get rid of you, so what do I have to do? But I think it needs to be inclusive, and inclusive is the word. Inclusive. Yeah, so it's important because it's an ecosystem where everybody needs to feel comfortable, even though they're different, or even though they have different rights and freedoms that they need accorded to them. So of course everybody has inherent rights just by the fact that they're human, but there's also things that might be particular and specific to certain demographics. For example, women.
Women is your sector.
Women is my thing.
The last time we had a conversation on women, you were
very passionate.
And it's a good thing.
Matters close to the heart.
I think the discussion of social justice is important, especially in East Africa, because some demographics are actually being put down as we speak. And I think let us start by noting that the representation of women in political participation, the representation of women in so many other spheres and environments is not where it should be. And it's not just women, it extends to people with disabilities. And I'm saying this because I remember you calling me out, asking me, are you saying that the youth in East Africa should not be given that position, that the women should not be given that position?
And you did say that, and I still have that held against you.
Please go watch that episode. My neck was being held right here. But it's important to notice that it's what is social justice? It's not necessarily just giving them a political position. It is also, what are these laws?
It's wide because it's not only political. You know, I mean, economic as well, socially as well. Yeah, so it's not only political. But do you think we can get to that point
where everybody says that it's fair ground? We have achieved social justice.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't. I also.
Ooh.
Hate to disappoint you guys, but we don't think so. But we do think that a lot can be done to change how it is now.
Yes, the narrative right now is not good.
Yeah.
We are far from where we can get to say we can't do anymore. Yeah. So what are some of these things that we really need to talk about when we're talking about social justice in East Africa? What are some of these social injustices in East Africa?
I mean, some emerge with a current situation or with something that's happening. For example, a good example would be right now, you can look at the cost of living in Kenya right now. Things just shot 0 to 100, quite literally. I mean, we used to complain before, but like now, and then when people even complain, they're being harassed, you know. That's an injustice, honestly. People are just trying to peacefully protest, for example, and they are being harassed. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of, not really extrajudicial, but like abuse of power coming from the police. And there's a word I'm looking for, and it has just decided to leave the chat.
It will come. It will come. Some other social injustice that I want to echo is the use of social media. Here's a question.
Or police brutality is what I was looking for.
That one went.
I wouldn't have continued if it didn't come back. Yes, you were saying something.
I was talking about social media, the freedom of the use of social media. There's a lot of restrictions, especially in Uganda and Tanzania, on what you can tweet, what you can say on social media, when you can say it and things like that. We saw during the last elections, not this was coming in Uganda, the last ones, there was a restriction on access to the internet and social media and online services and so on. So that is a social injustice that we need to echo. In a modern world like today, it is important for people to receive the information that they want to receive with no limitations. You're not going to tell me what to tweet.
Or even pass information they want to pass. Because I feel like this is just taking a different route depending on where you schooled your English. But I feel like it's an extension of the freedom of speech. Yeah. So you stopping me from being able to literally type what I want to say or what I want to communicate, you're infringing on my freedom of speech, because it's naturally I should be able to say these things as long as I'm not offending somebody or defaming somebody. I need to communicate an XYZ message and you don't want me to communicate it. It's like you want to control my thoughts and my mouth. You know, that's something that really, really needs to change.
Yeah. Now, the problem with social justice, or the problem with the conversation in social justice, is there's always a gray area. There's a place that you don't understand. It's not exactly this as it is that.
Yeah.
Now, in the case of the freedom of speech, when it comes to using social media and online platforms and such like, the argument of the people who would restrict that would be the inciting, that people are using these platforms to incite others to do this and that. So, do you think, in the event that inciting is a factor, that these people are still supposed to be allowed to use social media and other platforms?
No. But you can only strike that person after they've done it. You can't presume that, oh, okay, so I'm going to play God and know that you're going to incite people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know there's countries in the world that see it worse. We know we don't want to mention names. So we do know countries that, in fact, you can't even own a smartphone. Yeah. You can't communicate. There's something I was seeing yesterday where, maybe I shouldn't be mentioning this, but you see, like, even in North Korea, when a leader passes, you have to publicly express pain and mourn for 100 days. And in fact, they assess whether your mourning is sincere or not. And if they can tell that it's not, you and your family,
how do you assess it?
Prison.
Do you want me to act like the lawyer screaming here?
Ask me.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Now moving.
Ask me about it. But what I'm saying is, that freedom is really infringed on. And I agree that when it comes to social matters, there's always, especially in an open or liberal society, there's going to be the people who are always on the other end of the divide.
Yes.
And there's always that conflict of what is right, what is wrong, to what extent can this limitation happen, But some things are clear as day. For example, incitement is clear. Incitement is very clear. But if I haven't incited people, you cannot presume that I'm going or assume that I'm going to incite people and say that so you will not be allowed. In fact, we're going to cut off any internet and electricity to allow people to be able to access social media. Because what if I mean, probably it's election period, but I just don't want to discuss anything as pertains to elections. I mean, you should definitely involve yourself with election matters because it directly affects your life.
Yeah.
Directly in all aspects. But anyway, maybe it's a decision at the end of the day. So maybe I don't want to. But you're telling me that because this can be used for incitement, so everybody's not going to be allowed to use social media. I mean,
I think this is my view.
Yeah.
That even though you're going to use it for incitement, or even though you're going to use it to spread hate speech, even though you're going to use it to do whatever you want to do, to spread whatever, it is your right and it should be given to you.
Because, you're an adult. There's repercussions and choices have consequences.
Yes.
So you know that I have this space, but it's also being monitored. It's also being used for public, So if I'm able to, if I say certain things, certain things will happen to me. So you're an adult. If you're going to do that, you already know the implications. Yeah. So don't stop everybody because you think someone is going to incite. What I'm saying is people should also be wise in the things they say out there, because at the end of the day, it's coming back to you, right? So I agree with you. They should not limit something like social media, like access to social media. Come on.
Okay, so
why are we modern if we don't want to accept the modernity that comes with it?
Yeah, my question exactly. I think people should just be allowed the freedom of speech. Just give it until to the point where it hurts someone else, until the point where it bothers someone else.
It's not even giving. That's an inherent right. You
deserve it just by the fact that you exist.
Mine.
You have the right to say what you want to say, wherever, however. Yeah. But of course, with consideration of how other people are going to be affected by what you say. Now, the question that comes next is, when we talk about things like freedom of speech, that one you said is an inherent right. But there are some other rights that are, the black, the gray area comes in with the morality,
like which ones,
cultures, and... Okay. Hey, my dress, my choice. Is your dress really your choice?
Yes. It's not a question, yes.
Is it?
It is.
So if someone comes to you and tells you that being Kenyan, being Ugandan, being Tanzanian, we don't dress like that. That is too Western. Because I have had that statement.
Who is we? But you see, who is we? You wear your clothes, I wear my clothes. Am I wearing anybody else's clothes?
So you're saying that...
So what do you mean we dress like this? We don't dress...
Okay,
nobody's wearing your clothes
that we are all scared of having.
Yeah.
LGBTQ. If someone comes and tells you we don't do that because our traditions, our norms, our cultural alienations do not do that.
Again, it's not a plural thing. It's a you thing. You don't do that, I do it. So,
So you're saying our cultures, the uniqueness that we have as East Africans in our cultures, our day-to-day norms, the traditions that we have grown up with over years should not matter when it comes to social justice.
But let me tell you, I have a very kind of wide scope that I look at this thing on. First of all, there's a lot of practices that have been scrapped off because one, they were harmful. Yeah, we can't stick to something even though it's not working for us or for the sake of it.
Yeah,
I like to say that a lot of our African cultures, there's a good number of them that were pushed by the fact that we were a very patriarchal society, right? So you get modernized, or rather you're evolving, and you come to realize, this thing is not working for us. Yeah. And if it's not, you just get rid of it because, like I said, some things were harmful practices. And then we were very comfortable, and it was like, we want to hold on to our cultures. But we can't be choosing. We can't say, why were we willing to drop A, but we're not willing to drop B? Yeah. If it's not working, we get rid of it. And then also, I am a firm believer that choice, it shouldn't be an option. Everybody needs to have a choice in everything. Right? So I'm an adult of sound mind, and I've chosen I'm going to love person X. Why are you telling me that I can't love person X? I have to love person Y. Because this thing does not affect you. Again, this thing does not affect the third person. It directly affects me.
Where's the place of the church in that decision?
So this is what I think as well when it comes to the church. I think the church needs to remain the church.
I don't want to shake my head. So yes,
I think the church needs to remain the church. There's matters,
and the mosque.
There's matters that really as the church, why are you coming in between? Like, I'm a Christian, I'm a firm believer. But again, like I said, choice is something that is a right that someone is born with from birth, right? They get it from birth. You can't come and decide, you need to do ABCD with ABC, with person, with whoever, with so and so in society. And that thing really does not affect me. Like, I make my choice. So say I've decided to love a man. Why do I need to feel like I need to force another woman to also love a man? You see, it has nothing to do with me. I'm done forcing myself in that and saying, hey, it's affecting me, it's our culture, blah, 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 blah. You stick to the culture, let me not stick to the culture. Again, it's a choice. And then also, this is the thing about the church. I feel like religion, first of all, different churches, first of all, have different doctrines. Why is it that they don't fight and be like, but God said you need to do ABCD, church X, why are you not doing? They don't do that to each other. So why are they doing that to other people? You're forcing, because also
they actually do.
You find there's things there's things that this church believes in or does does them a certain way. The other church does not. The other church does not. There's also there's the temple, there's the mosque, there's a lot of religions, and then there's people who are pagans. So you can't start saying, as we are imposing this to people as the church, right? I know there's a level of a moral obligation that the church has to society,
yes.
but I feel like the church needs to have to their Christians, not to
extrapolate it
don't
to
force
other
it to other people. And also, again, if it's something that doesn't affect somebody else, why are you forcing it on someone else?
Because of your moral obligation.
Yes, and that your moral obligation is to you, it's not to me.
So when we talk about these things that are inherently, you used the word choice, like it is my choice. That if I decide it or I don't decide it, so long as you eat your breakfast, anyona bulungu, everything goes well. So what about those things that are forced upon by where you live? Like for instance, let's talk about social injustices that come with living in arid and semi-arid lands in Kenya. And with the rate of climate change, which is also a social injustice, because by the end of the day, climate change was caused by human beings. So it's also a social injustice. And the fact that these resources are not getting to them. How do you deal with that? How do you tell these people that, your culture requires you people live in these lands, that this is your home? How do you deal with the fact that the government or whoever is supposed to take care of your needs is not doing it?
But that's also the thing I always say, the government just needs to step up. Like, I'm speaking to East Africans, we elect our leaders so they can work for us. That's how it works for everybody. That's how it's supposed to work. We elect you so you can work for us. So if you're not doing your job, somebody needs to call you out for it.
Yeah, and Anyona will do that right here at Speak Up Africa, Africa with a K.
Yeah. Because why did I elect my leader? I didn't elect you to go and get comfortable in parliament or in the Senate. They are, and they shouldn't be. That's what I'm saying. They shouldn't be. So when it comes to some things, and especially things that are very area specific, your leaders in that area need to do it for you because you elected them for a reason. Why do you feel like why did you bother to ask people to vote for you if you don't want the job? You don't want to do the job. You have a duty and you owe it to those people to do it for them.
Okay.
You do. The problem, however, comes in that sometimes even those people are unable to speak up for them. So sometimes I don't even see how it's the leader's mistake or how, like some things are not really caused by your leaders, but it is for your leaders to solve them. That's how it works.
That's a nice statement. Some things are not necessarily caused by them, but it is their responsibility to find a solution.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about the conversation on social justice, today I'm doing the asking. So I feel like I'm an interview. Okay.
And I'm not hearing your side of the story.
I feel like I agree with you. Whenever I don't, I always,
say,
but let's talk about historical social injustices. Historical social injustices. What are historical social injustices? I feel like you've mentioned this before in the conversation on women in political participation.
Yeah, and people with disability and
So just for this particular episode, remind us what is historical social injustices.
These ones have happened over time. They didn't start the other day. Some we've been able to eliminate them. Some we're still trying to deal with them. Some have just evolved. It's the same problem, but now it has taken a different form. That let's not get into people's personal
Just
matters.
get into people's personal matters. I am here for the personal matters.
Some of these injustices have just evolved and taken a different shape or color or form, but it's really the same thing. It's really the same thing. What was happening to women is just still happening to women, but in different spheres.
In a different sphere, yeah.
Or taking different forms. So historical social injustices are just things that have been happening and they shouldn't have been happening, and over time to people. For example, the easiest for everybody to understand would just be FGM. Yeah. That would be a very easy one to explain. But again, some of these things historically happened because of some harmful cultural practices, some harmful beliefs, and some people forcing people to believe in morality that they don't really subscribe to. You know what I mean? So some things have successfully been demystified. Some are still in the process. Some have just evolved. Now we feel like some people are turning a blind eye, like we don't have that problem anymore, but we still have that problem. It's just taking a different shape.
I would like to know which problem is this that is taking a different shape.
A lot of these things are taking a different shape. So Kitambo, for example, when you just like to look at, say, women, you'd find that the challenge was, or your husband is going to beat you up and you have to stay there, blah, blah, blah. So you stayed in a marriage, for example, you were being beaten, right? And you stayed there because my family said I need to stay here because divorce is not a thing, but these things, for example, they still happen. People are, women, we were talking about the issue of women. So, there's things like rape in marriages. It happens, by the way. Rape does happen in marriage. There's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not humiliation. There's a word I'm looking for in my head. It has,
I can't read your head. I don't know even if you shake it. Okay, so we were talking about domestic violence happening back then, even, and now what happens today?
Domestic violence, for example, is also taking different forms right now. Yeah, people are being abused.
There's public shame. There's a lot of humiliation that comes to the woman.
You are in your house. You're not allowed to make a choice. Okay, fine. I'll bring the money. Fine, but you can decide things that happen in this house. You know what I mean? And someone will also just still stay and be like, I can get a divorce. What will people say? It's not about, okay, now people are forcing me to stay, but like what do people say? Where will I start from? Some women have been told things like, I'll provide, I'm your man, I'll provide. I don't want you working, but I also don't want you hanging out with so and so and so and so and so and so. And then it gets a point and you feel like, okay, enough is enough. I want to leave this. But then I can't because I don't have a life of my own. Someone has been controlling me the entire time. You know what I mean? It's still a form of violence, but it's not a husband beating you.
It's not.
So you can't go out and say, by the I'm being domestically abused. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that are just, with modernity, things also changing and taking different forms. And people are like, but I didn't beat my wife, but I didn't deny her money. But the kind of abuse that has been happening in that home is taking different forms. Yeah. So yes, I feel like every single challenge is just getting a new name or a new shape or a new form. Maybe it wasn't the perfect example, but we do get the gist of it.
Okay. Sasa, the next question will come is, do people who have gone through a lot of historical injustices, let's say women, let's say Black people when you look at the world in general, let's talk about certain tribes in East Africa, like for instance, the Maasai have undergone a lot of social injustices when they had to move from their lands and things like that. Are they entitled right now, the offsprings, because they're not the same people, of course, but the generations that came after, are they entitled to demand a place, a seat, and whatever they had taken away from them back?
That's a legal issue for one, but that's also taking it's also quite different because there's things where there's something we call in law something is time barred. It's barred by time.
Yeah, you have to explain that to
me. Like BARRED. Yeah. There's things you can't claim because a lot of time has passed and you don't even have evidence. There's things you will and you'll be successful. You'll be successful. But this is also the thing. You also need to have proof. Unapata, sometimes we just say things without any evidence. And you see, if you can't prove anything, you're not claiming anything. You have nothing to claim.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, a Maasai cannot say that because my land was taken away, my grandfather's land was taken away.
Can they prove my grandfather's land was taken away? That's the biggest issue in law. You need to prove.
So
Need to
unless you're
prove.
able to prove, even though it is known, like the way it is known that
But
black
it's
people were
known,
slaves.
but how can we prove? Okay, something like China, black people being slaves. Everybody knows that. That can be proved. But for example, in East Africa, what are we going to claim from who for the fact that
let's talk about the woman
there's
issue
a time
because
we
now
were
that
ever
at least
slaves.
we can prove.
Yeah.
Prove. Like we have undergone a patriarchal society for the longest time.
Yeah.
Generations that came
We've been
before us
there,
really suffered.
Okay, yeah.
Women did not have the rights to do this and this and this and this. And for the longest time, when we actually got into the work, the field of work, we got paid lesser because we were undervalued.
Pay gap is a thing, yeah.
Yeah. So can we demand right now in the workplace? Can Wangechi demand that she gets paid more than her colleague Thomas? You know,
but
despite the fact that they're doing the same job. Because there was a time that the Thomases of that time were getting paid more.
No, you are taking Panadol for somebody else's headache. Because this is the thing. Were you working at the time?
No, but that's
No,
the
you are
thing.
not, right.
So what is the historical injustices?
Hold on. You are not working at the time, and neither was Thomas.
Yes.
So why do you want Thomas to pay for something that your mom and even your mom and Thomas's mom were not working in the same workspace? Like it's not beating any logic. But okay, now because I'm a woman and because now time has elapsed and because I can prove that we were being paid less and now I want to be paid more than Thomas because I'm a woman and there's a time we suffered. You didn't even exist. It's the whole point is to get to a just society. When we get to a point now where we are victimizing somebody else, then we are beating the whole point, the whole logic, because now we're taking them now to, that's another form. It's just taking, it's morphing into another challenge. Now he's on suffering because of, but it needs to get to a point where if you're doing the same job as Thomas, you're bringing the same value, you're working you're at the same level, you should be paid the same. The challenge comes in when one of you is being paid less for no reason, absolutely. You're doing the exact same job. But you see also if Thomas is doing more than you are doing, not like in the sense that, okay, we have the same job, but he ends up doing, more things. But maybe say he gets a promotion or maybe he has a position that is higher than yours because maybe he worked so hard for that promotion and not because, you can't pin that on the fact that he's a man. He is a person that wanted to be promoted and did whatever, or he's at a higher position than yours, then he's not going to be paid the same as you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Someone said this, you're fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
So say Thomas and Wangechi, and we all want a promotion. Say we know there's an open slot for a promotion. So we're all working to get that promotion. It's not a man versus a woman issue. These are two colleagues who want that. It could easily be both women or both be men. It's just a person, and they each want a promotion.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That one has nothing to do with historical injustice.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you break it down like that, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, which brings the question of inclusivity, right? In the workplace, do you get the job because you're a woman and they're trying to meet a certain quota of like 1:3? We need one woman to every time there's this gender, 3 of this gender, we need the 2/3 rule,
gender principle,
or any other quota that is set in every company. Do you think that these quotas are fair? Do you think that they're fair? Because the last time I asked you this question, you said it's because of historical injustice. That we need that special position because for the longest time, we have been underrepresented. Our views have not been put outside there. So do these quotas work when we come to the workplace? Can we say that the reasons why we want, there must be this position is meant for a woman and a woman alone. It is not meant for a man. These other ones are for everyone, Men and women can fight for those positions. But this particular one is meant for the women because for the longest time, women were not included in the workspace. Does that make sense? Does inclusion make sense?
I think when they say this must be by a woman, I think it's only in situations where this person needs to be directly working for or with the women, and we feel like they're at a better position to do that because they're coming from the same place of understanding the challenge.
No, but this happens
then
in company quotas.
if it's over, you see, if a company needs to introduce quotas, it means they had that challenge of not being inclusive, and now they need to be inclusive, right? But then so they're like, okay, we have 15 vacancies, we must get 8-7. When it comes to gender, or we want to get 9-6. You know what I mean? Not 12-3. Yeah, but so if you find that they're putting quotas, you find it's because that those companies they lacked that, they lacked inclusivity. So you see what you're saying, at this one everyone else can fight for. That's how it should be.
It should
that's
be
how
like
they
that,
place it
open for
out there.
everyone.
Like we have 15, we want both men and women.
Yeah.
But then I don't think there's a lot of situations where it's like, finance
8.
must be a woman. No, it must be a qualified person. Yeah, and if they're setting out for women, it's pretty much a situation where, okay, we want 10, so we want 5 women and 5 men. We've already gotten 5 men. We've not gotten the 5 women, and we don't just want 5 women. We don't just want women because it's a woman. We want qualified women, and it can happen that we've also already found 5 women, but we haven't found 5 men yet, because we're not just looking for a man. We're looking for qualified people. Yeah, but because we've already met the threshold for the women, we also want to meet the threshold for the men, and vice versa.
I get that, but when it comes to the question of inclusion, there's all of these policies that are coming up for countries that have legalized and have are for LGBTQ, for countries that advocate for. There's always that quota that person with disability they must be. So it doesn't matter. You get the person that is even though they're not qualified, they're the most qualified out of the people with disability. You get like you get women being put in a position of power just because you're a woman. And I'm not trying to be offensive.
Yeah.
And the argument is always that for the longest time, men have always taken up that position. Now let's give it to a woman just to show
position of a woman. Like, what are you saying?
No. I'm saying like in a company setting. I'm just giving an example of a company setting. You find that they want to be inclusive. They want to look like they are inclusive outside there. So they set up these quotas, like I mentioned, and they're saying like a woman must take up that position, not because she's qualified, but because they want a woman to take up that position.
But
so
they want a qualified woman to take that position.
But the problem is, in some cases, there's not always a qualified person of that gender. You see? And it makes people, the other gender, the male now, feel like they're the ones suffering from social injustice. Yeah. There's campaigns going all around saying that the boy child has been forgotten because a lot of focus has been put on the girl child. A lot of these things. The same thing comes with people with disability. I find a hospital that says we are inclusive hospital, and because we're inclusive, we want to have people with disabilities like 2. So we want 2 doctors who are people with disabilities. And maybe they are not qualified to that extent that they want doctors who are people with disabilities. But there's someone who's qualified. They get that job just because they're persons with disability. Is that the kind of inclusion that we should be fighting for?
Genuinely though, I don't think, first of all, if you're asking for this, we want, say, a financial officer we want a woman. It's because when they say we want a woman or we want a man or we want a person living with disability, it's because they always know there's someone they can find that fits that. It's no longer those times where certain courses were left for certain people or certain fields of study or certain careers. So there's a chance that in every single career you will find such and such a person. But you find that if we haven't found a qualified person, we cannot employ an unqualified person
just to tick that box of gender, people with disability.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, why would you compromise? Why would you compromise? You see, you're a company, you want results. So why would you compromise? You can't get results if it starts from the very bottom. You can't get results if you are putting in place someone who's not qualified for the. There's always room to grow, but that's why there's internship positions, or that's why people decide from a little bit lower and then go up the ladder through promotions and such kinds of stuff. But there's a very slim chance of, especially something that is meant for income or to make money, there is a very slim chance that they'll employ an unqualified person just because they want to tick a box. They'd rather say we placed a man there because we did not find a woman, even though we wanted a woman for XYZ position. But you see, when they're doing such kinds of things, it's because we have 2 slots. We have 5. We already have 3 men, right? We want to add 2 more men, and we know we can also find women who are also qualified enough to handle this position, or vice versa. So I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so it's a very rare situation where you find people are just being gifted. That people like to look at it from a political angle, where it's like, why do we have women rep positions? Why do we have, but those ones it's really because there is a need for representation across all demographics. But when it comes to company setups, most people are not likely to compromise. I know I wouldn't. Even if I wanted to employ men, for a man for a certain position, maybe I already have 3 women, and then I want a man at least to get the male perspective, and to also give men a chance and be inclusive. If I don't find a qualified man for that position I'm looking for, I'll just give it to a woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then maybe I'll just take the man in as an intern or through different ways. Like, I don't think people gift positions, especially
society,
especially salaried positions.
We are talking about positions like, gender. I feel like gender right now, it's not neutral and it's not equal, but things like people with disabilities. Yeah. There are organizations that I want a person with disability, and there might not be a doctor who is a person with disability, but a clinical officer will do, because people with disabilities is the first thing.
That also happens in things like grants. But it's because you target certain demographics because they're experiencing much more of a challenge than the rest of the people. Like, it's sort of you're finding that it's not a fair ground, or also you've just picked an area of specialization. There's grants, for example, there's grants and jobs that are just by the email, give whoever's qualified. I don't care about gender, about any other aspect. But there's those ones that are, this is our niche, this is what we have picked, and there's no problem with that. And then also you were talking about the boy child feeling left out and all of. Sometimes I feel like, not that I'm saying that they are not left out, but I feel like sometimes it's throwing a tantrum.
Like, it's just men throwing a tantrum
because now you're feeling bad that somebody else is also being given attention, or is being given is being given a fair ground with to compete with you, or is being given room to grow just as much as you have. Because sometimes I look at why are the men feeling threatened, and sometimes I'm like, but I don't even feel like enough noise has been made for the woman. It's just that now it's almost equal. Okay, now I'm going to the office and my wife is going to the office. I don't want that. So I've had a lot of men who also say that I don't want my wife to work, and I've had those who say we need to help each other out. We're not going to 100% complement each other, but we need to complement each other to whatever percentage, or to there's matters where you'll do more, and there's matters where the man will do more, or whatever way your household is set up. But there's others who are outrightly feeling threatened. For example, you'd see men saying, "Oh, but girls, they're being picked to schools." It's a lot of complaints, and I'm just like, but because she's getting the help, she's getting the attention, is it affecting you? Like, are you lacking any? And has anything been taken away from you because they've been given a chance? I think it's room for everybody to compete fairly, but what was happening is that there was unfair competition. In fact, people were just being left out. Like, I remember I told you about, the persons living with disability. There was a challenge, just like the women had a lot of challenges. Like, even the constitution was, it was unfair. Even things like owning land, like, even it's your own money, and this thing still happen in some countries. But what I see it as is that, okay, fine. So I've enabled the woman to be able to buy land, or the person with the disability to be able to vie for a position. But you're complaining now that the boy child is left out because what was taken away from you? I'm just giving someone else a chance, somebody else a chance. What has been taken away from you? Sometimes I'm usually like, I don't understand. The cry is because no one is talking about me.
Until you're in their shoes. You really can't understand until you're in their shoes.
Yeah, but no one has ever made me understand it that much. I'm not saying that it's not there. And if you can properly explain it to us, leave a comment down below. Tell us. You let us know. This is
from a point of we would like to know.
Yeah, we're speaking as women at this point because we can't speak for the man in some areas because we're not men. We've not lived through your life, like I usually say. But please make me understand what usually is the big deal. That, okay, so we're making noise that the girl child needs to be empowered, needs to be taken to school, needs to be allowed to own a business, needs to be employed, needs to be given a fair chance, needs to be allowed to contest for political positions. And then the man is crying, No, but you're leaving out the
But why
boy
are you
child.
crying?
Why not taking? But so what have I taken away from you? I don't understand. You, for example, let me just go a little further back. You were able to go to school. The woman was not able to go back to school. So they're trying slowly to make it easier for her
the woman to be able to go to school,
because it was not the same level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe now a lot of people will argue, but now we are at the same level. Okay, cool. So now there's just the same way. There's, for example, there's boys' schools, there's girls' schools, there's mixed schools. So mixed schools don't have a bias. But of course, the girls' schools will have a bias. So if your boys' school has decided I'm going to take only boys who got 420 marks and above, but then this girls' school that is at the same level as the boys' school, maybe it's an extra county school and it's an extra county girls' school, and then they decided we'll take a girl starting from 380 marks because we believe there's room for them to improve and do better and compete fairly with you guys. So why are you complaining that the girls have been taken with a low mark? There's other schools that also are taking boys at 380 marks. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'm always wondering, is there anything it's taking away? Like, exactly what is wrong?
What is your complaint? What exactly?
It needs to be fair ground. It will be unfair to me. It will get to that point where, if there will be so much that is being given to the girl and nothing being given to the boy, very little less being given to the boy. That's a problem. But I genuinely feel like we're not there yet. We're really not there yet.
We're not there yet. I really don't. More given to the girl and
because you'll even see things like it's simple.
It's
hard. A lot of things are harder for the girl. It is not a tantrum. This is not a complaint. It's just fact. For example, if a child going to school gets pregnant and they've been impregnated by a fellow school-going child, boy,
the girl ends up suffering.
She will. There's a time she'll need to skip school to go for the clinics. Sometimes she won't be feeling well due to the pregnancy. Sometimes she will need to have she'll need to go give birth and nurse the baby for an X amount of time. And I know that nowadays there's rules that provide for the girl not to be taken away from school, but it can't be avoided.
To be pregnant.
It can't be avoided that there's a fact that there's a time they will miss in school.
Right.
But this is the thing, you know what? She's a mother, the boy is a father, but he will never miss school for that.
Yeah.
He will never. It's not until recently, maybe recently is not 2 years ago, but it's not until recently that even a man needed to get a paternity leave, you know. And there's a lot of companies that
paternity leave is just a month.
2 weeks even for some places. Yeah.
That's not good enough.
It's not good enough. That's something that now I know it's not fair.
Yeah, you see, that's not a fair
That's
ground.
something I know that it's not fair.
Ground.
And when the man complains, I get it. You see. Also, you see what that was doing was that for the woman, you stop. Your life is going to stop for a minute for this time as you go and do, and take care of your baby. But what about the man?
Your life continues.
It's continuing as though it's normal, and that is not. It's both not a. I can't say it's a good or a bad thing. But they also needed to. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. So if something's not clear as day, we need the men to explain to us.
Exactly. Tell us, where do you think that there's some sort of social injustice towards the male figure, particularly the boy child in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya? And I would like us to finish, and I would like you to tell us as we finish, because you have been the voice of expert for this conversation.
I'm just realizing I've really talked.
No, but it is nice. The last time we had the conversation on women political participation, I noticed that you like talking about social injustices and things like that. So I wanted us to get that view from you today. What
she just said I'm a voice of. I'm not an expert. I'm just airing
for this
facts
show,
I think they are
for this particular episode
and opinions.
What do you think the youth can do? What can we do to ensure that we get to that level of social justice that we want?
Sorry, I was burping. Yes.
Did you want to say that?
Yeah. Now ask me. My mind was distracted.
In the burping?
Yeah. So yes, say your question. Please. My mind decided it will not multitask. It's not my fault.
What are the ways that the youth can participate to ensure that we get to that level of social justice that we want? That level of social justice where we say we can no longer do anything to the level of social justice. Again,
like we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, there's you see why we're that perfect society that we'd like to have. We know that cannot happen, but we do know that
there's a level we can reach.
Yeah, there's somewhere we can get. So I think explore every means that's available to you. It's at your disposal. It's at your disposal. And exactly what we do here, where we digitally, civically engage people. And this is the thing, you have your phone in your hands probably all the time. You have it in your pocket, you have it in your handbag. Wherever you go, you have it with you. There's something you can do. You can speak up for #SpeakUpAfrica. You can speak up for things that you know that are not right. That's always a point to begin. You can always participate in online campaigns, you can always sign forms, to pass
Petitions
certain,
and things,
to petition. You can sign petitions. You can always sign, So
and nowadays there are so many organizations that have different agendas that lead to social change. Volunteer and be part of these organizations, whether it is environmental conservation, whether it is to feed the poor, whether
and
it is
visit our website and take part in the conversation.
Visit our website at www.speakupafrica.net. Africa with a K.
Yeah, and it allows you to leave a comment. So you can leave your comment there. You can share. You can go on social media. You can tweet these things, hashtag these things.
Talk about
it. It
whatever
begins.
It is
when you begin the conversation, you create room for that change to happen, or that conversation to begin and take place and change something that is not right. So we will not get to a perfect place. That is just living in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
But we can do something, and you can start it right where you're seated. Where you are now, you can do something.
Last time I said you cannot just sit home and complain, and Anyona told me
you can. You can sit home and complain.
But you need to complain to people who can hear you. Because if you sit in your bed alone in closed quarters and you're complaining to yourself.
You can sit on your bed and take your smartphone and complain.
And I'll complain like that. Complain like that. That is one way we can actually change. We can change societal. When you feel like something is not being done in the right way, just speak it out. You might be representing a lot of people outside there.
Yeah.
And they back you up and like that, and change comes when people speak
And I don't like that when people sometimes use the term complain, because I am expressing what is happening to me, what I'm feeling, what this is making me go through. And then because it's not happening to you, you've chosen to call it complaining. It's no longer expressing or communication. Now it's just complaining because it's not affecting you. Yeah. But thank you so much for watching this video, for listening to this podcast, for being a part of the conversation, for right about now, because I know you're going to do it. So thank you for going on to our website at www.speakupafrica.net. K is constant. For going to our social media, leaving that comment, sharing that post, sharing that conversation, sharing that blog, and taking part in the narrative. Now, my name is Anyona Bulungu.
And mine is Wangechi and Anyona.
And see you in episode 5 of the Speak Up Africa podcast.
Bye.